Welcome to the Racing Nuggets podcast. I'm PJ Noodleman, joined by my co-host from the Midwest Racing Connection, Mr. Dan Plan. Good evening, Dan.
Hello, good to be here once again.
I am so excited for this one. We have the two-time NASCAR truck champion, Ben Rhodes, joining us. Good evening, Ben.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, thanks for having me. I gotta say it is a good evening. I got the baby down to sleep. He didn't fight me too bad, and I'm in a far corner of the house right now where he can't hear me, so it's great.
I love that you're hands-on with the dad duties. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. It's honestly like it's my biggest challenge. You know, I have a lot of respect for parents with multiple kids and just any parent really. I think once you become a parent, then you learn to be thankful for your own parents and the upbringing they provided, and you start to realize how hard it is. And yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. It's made me a better person. So fighting him to go to sleep every night's a real challenge, but makes me better, I guess.
Teaches you patience, probably.
Yeah, I had none of that. Yeah, I do. I have a little bit now, just a little bit.
That's awesome. And you and your wife are expecting, right? You have another baby on the way?
Yeah, we've got another one. That baby will be here March 21st, but I'm betting a little sooner. That's how the last one was, and then they say the second one is even sooner, so we'll see what happens.
Well, and I hope your schedule works out that you're able to be there as well.
Yeah, I would love to. I think around the that time we're supposed to be in Vegas at some point. So yeah, fingers crossed the baby doesn't decide to show up while I'm in Vegas.
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
you are from Kentucky, but driving for ThorSport, do you have a residence as well that you stay at in Sandusky, Ohio, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Louisville and still live in Louisville, Kentucky. I commute up to ThorSport Racing every 2 weeks or so. I try to stretch it to three sometimes, and I get a text message, Ben, where you at? So about two's my number. Sometimes I'm back to back though. I go 2 weeks in a row. But no, in all seriousness, I go up every 2 weeks or so, and I stay there about 3 days. The team has a little hotel slash residence that all of the in and out people are staying in because it's not just Thor Sport Racing. It's actually Thor Works Industries, so Sealmaster, Tenda, Farm Paint, all these different brands that are kind of under the umbrella of Thor Sport. Well, they have a lot of people coming in and out too, so they have a hotel of sorts. And racing people are mixing with business people, and we're just coming and going. And for that reason, we made a lot of cool friends. But I don't really keep anything up there. I just kind of have my room key, and I kind of just check in and out and go as we need to.
Working for Duke Thorson, Duke and Rhonda, it's got to be a blast. I mean, Duke is quite a colorful character. Anyone who follows him on social media, it's got to be fun to have a guy he's not afraid to tell it how it is. And that's, I don't know about you, but for me, I'd like to deal with people who are straightforward that way.
No, I do too. The best thing about Duke is he's pretty old school. I always say he's like the last old school team owner. He really goes out and tries to get talent and people that he likes and meshes well with his, culture that he's built at the team. And then worries about, the funding and the business of the sport later. He really he functions on that old school mentality, which I mean, I don't know about you, but that's what racing was built on, and that's what I like to see. I think that's what the majority of race fans like to see. Nobody really likes to see somebody come in with, let's say, average or below average talent, subpar talent, but they have a ton of funding behind them, and they go out and they wreck a bunch of race cars. But when there's clearly other talent out there that could do the job. I mean, I think that's a perfect example is Ty Majeski, who they brought on. Ty was running late models, kicking butt, and he makes a name for himself. Duke takes notice and says, come, let's get to know you a little bit. Come work in the shop a little bit. And then got to know him. They sees a stand-up guy and then gives him a shot, and he's running full time. He's my teammate now. I think that speaks volumes to the program ThorSport has.
I think all of your teams tend to just kind of really coalesce together as well, too. I mean, you got a great crew chief in Rich Lucius. What was that like for you when they did that switch and you lost him for part of the season last year?
Yeah, I don't think Rich or I really wanted to see it happen, but we understood where it was coming from. The general consensus was that Rich was really good at working with young drivers between Myatt Snyder, myself, who was coming off of a really bad season in 20, going into 21 with Rich and turning it into a championship. He just had been proven at basically working with young people who needed structure, and he's just had a knack for it. So they said, let's put you with Haley, Ben. You can go with some of the other seasoned crew chiefs that are in the building that, now you've got experience. Maybe we can try pairing it with them. So it's not like we wanted to see it happen, but we both kind of mutually understood where the decision was coming from. But fast forward 20 races into the season now, I had gone through two crew chiefs, and he's just been kind of having his season. And then finally we got paired back together for the last three races. And I think we parlayed that into a second, and then, yeah, a seventh, but ultimately a championship. So it turned out really well for us. And now with that success, a first, a second, and a first, and championships with Rich Lucius, we're for sure going to be staying together here in the future.
That's awesome. What is it that makes your relationship with Rich so special?
I really don't know. And he gets asked that question too sometimes on why we click. Um, I don't know specifically, but I think there's a lot that comes down to communication styles in racing, especially in the NASCAR world, because you're with each other so long every single week. There's not really a good break between races. And, the environment is pretty high stress just with the amount of funding and attention and notoriety that's on the series. So, with all that being said, I think Rich is really good at staying calm in tense situations, understanding how I react to other people. And then I think I've got a good understanding of what makes him tick and what makes him react. So, we're very mindful of each other, how we feel, and really just trying to respect one another. I've been on the other end of situations where I've been with crew chiefs before in the past that, if something was to go wrong, it's not I have your back, you have mine. It's that's the bad guy. We need to get him off the
Mm.
team. Whether, I haven't had that finger pointed at me, and it's like and I've seen it the other way where crew members are pointing the finger at the crew chief, and we don't have that at all. He bears everything on his shoulders. I bear everything on my shoulders. And if I make a mistake, he'll say it's his fault. If he makes a mistake, I'll say it's my fault. So, we just have each other's back, and I think that goes a very long way.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Dan, I
Yeah.
don't want to steamroll you if you've got a question you want to get
So
in
I,
there.
I well, going back to the, recognizing talent and stuff. I know you kind of had the natural progression in your career with carts and then bandos and legends. Um, do you have any of your old equipment and any desire to get out and play around in that stuff if you do have it?
Yeah, I do have the old equipment. The crazy part though is when I last ran it, like chassis are still good, but you're talking all new motors and everything else. Like for example, legend cars, I've still got that one car that we ran. But you're talking new tires, new engines, they're water cooled now, not air cooled like when I was in them. It's just totally different dynamic, and of course different tires. So I hear they're not camber cutting them quite as much. There's just a lot going on in the series that I was once in. So for me to try to go back into it and try to win some races, I'm so far out of the water at that point that I would have to go race with somebody that's been in it every single day, knows what's fast, knows what's winning, knows which engines are the best. It would be a challenge, but I do have all the equipment. I just don't have the appetite to go down and try to run in the karts and the legend cars and stuff without being able to win. Because I have a feeling if I put it together without doing it every day, we're not going to win right off the bat.
And then I forgot too that Marcus Ambrose had a late model team that you drove for. What was it like working with Marcos there? Was he involved in the day-to-day operation of that?
Yeah, so Marcus was really involved at like a higher level. The day-to-day operation was with Fathead Racing, Jamie Elton Fathead Racing, which is out of that Rutherfordton, North Carolina area. I forget who they have driving with them now, but that was kind of the team. And then the name brand to it was Marcus Ambrose Motorsport. He was like the driver development spot that would bring drivers to the team. And Marcus would work on more or less the business of NASCAR, like what you have to do to obtain sponsors, and these are all the media people you need to know. He was the door opener, right? So he was the guy that was training me what it took to get to the next level on, sponsorship side, the publicity side, the marketing side, everything that had to do not with racing. And then the, late model stock team that I was with, with them quite a bit. They taught me everything I needed on the racetrack. And then Marcus too, he took me to cup races. I worked out with him. He trained me. So we went, we do swim together. We do CrossFit together. I would go to some of his cup tests. We would go to his cup races. And he really put me into that environment at a really young age, which was super intimidating. but for sure worth it because when I showed up a few years later, I can say, oh, I've been here a little bit now. I kind of have an idea of how stuff flows and how it looks.
How old were you during that time?
Oh boy, so that was well, that was 2012. So I was like 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You are
Yeah.
really well spoken too. Anytime a microphone gets in front of your face, you are
Oh,
very well spoken. You're a likable guy, though. I mean,
well, thank you.
and I know you got wild both years that you got the championship, but you know what? That's part of the color that we all love. I mean, that was funny stuff. But you're very
Well, thank you.
polished, and I don't know if that's just natural or if that was some sort of training or anything that you've done, but you're very natural with the microphone.
Well, I appreciate that. It's funny you say that because I was actually lying in bed last night thinking about this. I don't know. I was just thinking about like when you're a parent, you start thinking about all kinds of different things that you want to implement in your own kids' lives and things that happen to you that you wish you could do better for them. And one of the things that I was thinking about last night, I was really grateful for this TV show that we had. It was called On Track with Ben Rhodes, and it was a local TV show around the Louisville, Kentucky area, played on local TV, but we would go in, I think every Tuesday after school. I would go straight there from school and we would film the TV show. It took about an hour, and I would do that with a local sports anchor. His name was Kent Spencer. And he was basically teaching me how to speak and talk in front of the camera. And I did that for like 3 years. And the show was good. I mean, we had local sponsors that we'd sell that, I would go out and do events with them. They'd also sponsor the show. It was a good package. But ultimately, it made it really easy for me to get into the front of the camera. There's still some times where I get nervous and I'll get red or whatever, but for the most part, it made it easier for me to kind of collect my thoughts and talk in front of people with the microphone. So I wish I could implement that in my own kid's life, but I don't quite know how to do that yet. It was a great experience for me, though.
Well, it might happen organically as things continue to develop with your career too, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if there's an opportunity for any parent that's listening now to try to teach your child social skills at a young age by doing any sort of public speaking stuff, I highly recommend it. I don't think enough credit is given to the ability to speak and to speak with tact, like to deliver what message you want, but to deliver it in a manner that's well received. Um, not just really for like interviews, but just the ability to talk to my team on a day-to-day basis, like how to give somebody criticism on the team, but not hurt their feelings and let them know that they're still really appreciated and that we're going to go win together, but we have to do certain things better. I think even people in leadership positions today that have been around it for a while can still work on that. I certainly can. Sometimes I don't have the guts to tell people stuff, but at least from a young age, that's helped me a lot. So if parents, if you're listening, public speaking and social skills are really important, at least in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, and servant leadership is probably the
Yeah.
thread that you're looking for with that, because if people approach things with that servant leadership mentality, that is where you show people gratitude and appreciation and then kind of help coax them to do what they need to do to improve. So, yeah, servant leadership for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You and I, go ahead, Dan.
I was just 'cause along those lines, I think through my life and working outside of my real job and or outside of racing and reminding myself that you have to sometimes think about what somebody's saying, not how they're saying it. Because
Mhm.
sometimes they don't say it the proper way. So it's just life
100%.
life lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really my wife tells me I talk too much. One of the things I'll do is if we're arguing, I'll say like, this is what I think you mean, or this is what I think you don't mean, and I'll kind of like run through that so we better understand each other sometimes. But I don't know, over communicating is a good thing to do for sure.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I like that you say that, Tara. This is what I think you mean.
Yeah, tell
I've
me where I'm
actually
wrong. That's what I'll tell her.
don't ever tell a woman that. She'll really go off on that one.
No, she's been. I've been pretty blessed. She's been a very. I just told her earlier. I'm like, I'm pretty lucky to have you here. She takes care of the home front for me, so I can go out and play in circles.
Nice. You and I have something in common. I read that you have your pilot's license. Is
You
that
have your
true?
pilot's license too?
I do. I'm not
Oh
current.
man, me
I'm not
neither.
current. Yeah, I haven't been able to go up. I actually worked in radio for over 20 years, and one of the engineers at the radio station had his pilot's license, and we traded. I DJ'd a bunch of dances to pay off getting my pilot's license and all that education, but I haven't used it now in probably over 15 years, which is sad because I love flying. How about
I
you?
do too. Oh, I love flying. I'm not current either. It's just as you're well aware, it's just really expensive to do. So if you don't have a good reason to do it, going out and getting a $300 hot dog, isn't really, or a cheeseburger, whatever restaurant you fly to isn't a good enough reason to fly. So I would like to get into flying again. I this is a funny story. So we've got a little bit of land here that we're looking to try to build on one day. And it's got actually a long enough field to it where I've been looking up experimental home built aircraft that I can build that will take off and land in that short field. And I could fly to Sandusky, Ohio. It'd cut my trip in half. Obviously, my wife says no. But my pilot friends think it's a fantastic idea. So if I can find somebody that has the time to build an airplane, because they say it takes like 3,000 hours,
Oh.
uh, yeah, then this might be for me.
Well, do you know what we have around us? And maybe you could have a group around you. We have like a group of people who all have their license that kind of went in together on one plane, and then everybody can just kind of, I'm going to take it this weekend or whatever.
Oh
Maybe you
yeah,
could work that out with a big group of friends that you have that fly.
I should look into that. I really should. I need to fly more. When I was by myself and I didn't have kids and a wife, I found it was easy to do that. Now my days are like slam packed full. So finding the time to try to build one or join the group and then get current again might be my biggest hang up. But I really, really, really want to fly again. It would certainly make life easier. I mean, if I could hop in the airplane and then be in Sandusky in like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, that would be, oh, it takes me anywhere from 5 to 6 to get there right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You and
So.
Ty have a very similar commute then, because I know he has a house up here
Mhm.
in Wisconsin and then drives down to Sandusky as well.
Yeah, and his is bad though because he's got to go through Chicago.
Yeah.
Um, Mine is bad because I do have to go through Louisville. I go through Cincinnati and then either Dayton or Columbus. But it doesn't matter like what you do. The traffic is usually always bad. So I found here lately what I typically do is I hit the road at like 3:30 or 4 a.m. and then I can get there about like 9:30, and then I'm like way better off. I get no traffic, a nice peaceful drive. So you'll catch me on the road at like 4 a.m. these days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any rituals or superstitions when you get ready for a race?
No, no, no superstitions or rituals really. So this year, okay, I guess one thing weird that I started doing is I've kind of changed my diet up to what I think feels better for me inside the race truck. I kind of used to just eat whatever the race team would make, and that could be anything. So, like, watch out. To start the season, Justin Lofton, who owns All Beef, Beef, .com, they came on board and they would send me, it's kind of like Butcher Box, right? But he's a local farmer, rancher out of Texas who used to race truck series. He still races off road. So if you're a racer, he's your guy. He sends us these boxes of his cows. And so we would grill those up and eat that on race day. And I would typically eat that with like a potato before the race. So I would have some carbs and the meat, and it would typically sit so much better on my stomach. There's like nothing worse than going into a race, where it's hot, in there for an hour and a half to 3 hours if they wreck like they do at Phoenix.
Huh.
And you know, you got indigestion or whatever's going on. It's a bad feeling. It takes your mind off of what you're trying to do. So I try to really focus on getting better food in me.
I applaud that. I actually started working at a naturopathic doctor's office, and what you just said is prime. I mean, that's what she says to eat real food, and you're going to be a
Yeah.
lot healthier for sure. You mentioned Phoenix with all those crashes. OMG. Can I just say it? That was like the race from hell. Oh my God. I
I
didn't
know.
think I was out there. Obviously, I got to meet you for the first time just briefly there. But that was, oh man, that was a nail biter. It was like, what the heck?
It was wild. And like for the first 130 laps or whatever, 120 laps, it was a good race. I mean, we weren't in contention to win it. We weren't, I would say we were the second best truck. But where things got out of whack or out of sorts is how the cautions felt. The truck series compared to Cup, Xfinity, we're short. It's sprints. I mean, our second stage is some races are 20 laps. I mean, it's an absolute dogfight in a sprint. And where it got weird is people started flipping the stages. So all of us playoff guys, all of us championship contending drivers all of a sudden in the back, all these other trucks are in front of us. And as we're coming through the pack, I mean, I'm racing really hard with Corey at one point to be the leader of the championship drivers. And it's him, myself, and Grant. So sorry, Carson was a little further ahead of us. I got that mixed up. But anyways, I'm racing with him. We would have been the leader on new tires, basically chasing down Carson. They're racing so hard. At any moment, I'm like, we're gonna wreck. So at one point, I just kind of let Corey Heim go. And when he goes, I watch like literally like 4 laps later, he gets to Carson and they wreck each other. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't see that coming, but I kind of saw it coming. Not the way it played out, but at least when we were side by side, he's getting loose, I'm getting loose. We're about to hit each other. I'm like, we got to make it to the end. You know, first and foremost, like now running so many years in the truck series, making it to the end, you almost have to say that to yourself because it is so easy when everybody's going so dang hard just to wreck and not even trying to, right? You're actually trying to stay away from people, but you almost have to make it like your mantra: do not wreck. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just aggressive. So once that happened, everything kind of became derailed, and it was just caution after caution. And you know, you see that in the truck series though. You got a lot of hungry young drivers who want to make a name for themselves, who see every opportunity as their only opportunity, unsigned, waiting on the next big thing, trying to get sponsorship, you know, trying to display their talent. They're not cup guys that have multi-year contracts. So, you know, it's to be expected. And the racing breeds that. We have tighter racing than those guys too. We punch a bigger hole in the air. We've got motors that are all exactly the same. I think our racing is closer for that reason. When we have a bad day now, we aren't running 10th or 7th. When I had my first truck race, we finished 7th and I didn't even know what I was doing. Now I know what I'm doing. We have a bad day, I'm running 24th at Homestead. It's really, really close. Really, really hard to run well nowadays.
We have a very legendary driver from Wisconsin who's no longer with us, Dick Trickle.
Mhm.
And a famous quote from him was always, to finish first, one must first finish. And boy, that should almost be the mantra for the truck series, man. It gets pretty hairy almost every week.
Every lap, and there's been new developments in the truck series. Like when I say developments, I'm not talking from rules changes. The rules have been fairly the same. You know, what we're working on under the truck has been fairly the same, but there's developments with aero. There's always something people are finding. You can only go so much in one direction before you start working in another, whether that's underneath. There's just kind of natural evolution of rules and of what people find for speed with X amount of hours in the wind tunnel. So with all that being said, all that prefacing, um, trucks a truck from 2017 drives a little bit different than it did in 2023, and it's going to drive a little bit different in 2024 based off what they're finding and how to maximize downforce and in yaw and side by side with people and in front of you. And with all that being said, like I think it has led to even harder racing because now you can run even closer to one another. You can really lay it on someone's door before it just absolutely snaps loose. And it used to be you had to have a lot more room. So I feel like some of us older guys that are used to that old way of racing give more room. Some of the younger guys that never had that old school area, like when I say old school 2017, where you had to have room, they just lay it on your door. They don't know any different. Again, the truck will sort of somewhat take it until it won't. And then we see a bunch of wrecks.
Wow. What is that like for you being one of the older seasoned veterans? How does that feel?
Yeah, it's weird actually. So I'm 26 now. I'll turn 27 here in a couple months, and I don't know. I came into the series in 2016. I made my first start in 2014, just part time, and you know, it's been weird because we've seen so many developments and changes in drivers, and um, I really only feel like I'm just now getting kind of settled in or finding my groove, like within the past year or two. Uh, you know, 2021 kind of caught me by surprise how we found some success and some performance, and it's like, oh, we're finding our spot now. 2022, I kind of felt like I was starting to get in a groove, and 23, here we are, kind of recognizing patterns and things we should do on the track to find success, things that maybe other people don't pick up on. That isn't anything to do with performance of the truck itself. It's just racecraft and pacing and big picture stuff that I wish I could have taught my younger self. But even if I could have told my younger self wouldn't have grasped it. So as much as it is cool to be like a veteran of sorts, I don't exactly know how to help the younger guys other than just to say, make it to the end. Whatever you do now, people are going to remember. So, you know, you can finish 7th here and nobody's going to remember 7th. You can win a race, people will remember that. But if you wreck for going from seventh to fifth, people are going to remember that in the bad way. People aren't going to remember the one or two spots better that you got, and I wish I kind of got that advice, because I would always push so hard to get one more spot, and I'd get in a wreck. Well, then you get a bad rep as a driver. Well, nobody's going to remember that extra spot you almost got. They're only going to remember those wrecks, because one or two more and you've got a bad career going, really bad career.
That's true. That's true. What is the worst wreck that you have ever had in any series or trucks? What is it?
Oh man, I've had my fair share. I've had quite a few hard ones at Talladega and Daytona. Actually, the one that hurt me the most was actually a wreck that I never would have thought I got it from. Was at Talladega in 2017. I got T-boned after the race was over. I'm sitting sideways, and truck hits me, and he might have hit me doing like, I don't know, 70 or something, 60. I don't know. I was basically coming to a stop, and he hit me. I think it was Spencer Boyd, and that gave me a darn good concussion. So I was hurting for a while after that. And I've had other wrecks where you hit head on. I mean, way harder, and it really didn't rattle me too bad. But the one where I got T-boned, I mean, I saw him coming. I get hit, and I just kind of move around a little bit. Didn't think nothing of it, but apparently it was just not good for my head. It really did me in for a while. So fully recovered from that years and years ago. But it's the weird angles that you got to watch more than anything, I think.
Yeah. Have you ever had the concussion protocol where they have like a baseline set for where, yeah, is that something mandatory now in NASCAR? Is that what they do?
It is, yeah. So every 2 years you have to take an impact test. And that sounds like, oh, they're going to sled test you into a concrete wall. No. What they're going to do is it's like memory games. So you're going to like remember a bunch of pictures, and then basically, tell the computer back the order of the pictures you saw, or you're going to remember some numbers. And basically it's testing memory and cognitive skills. And you do that every 2 years, and you get a baseline, and they just kind of see how you progress every 2 years. If you were to get in a severe enough concussion, they would do that impact test you again, and see kind of where you're at. The other thing they did is they started putting this, I don't know what it's called. It's a test where you read these numbers across a screen, and gradually you do 3 tests in a row, and gradually it spaces the numbers out, and it takes away like guiding lines. So your eyes really have to jump around and do some focusing. And they try to get you to read that as quick as you can. And obviously, if you're really slow, you're probably a little jumbled.
Wow. I didn't realize that it was that intense every 2 years. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's not, because I'm joking. So
are
it's
there
like
times when
45.
are there times when you feel fine and you're like, boy, am I gonna be able to pass it this time?
Yeah, well, it's like yeah, like you do the impact test every 2 years, and it's like 45 minutes. I gotta go do it. And now I've been doing it for like since 2012. I think I've been taking these suckers. So, I've done like a bunch of them, and use my old one. I guess I'm not very good with understanding healthcare, but I appreciate them. I'm just not good at
That's
it.
funny. That's funny. Well, I think it's probably stressful though too. And if you have to drive to North Carolina to do it, is that
Mm.
yes, so
Yes,
that's
it's not easy. It's not easy to schedule them. I could get some around Louisville. I could get some in Ohio, but you kind of have to find the doctors, and they're always changing. So this year I have it set up where I'm going to North Carolina for a bunch of like interviews and Fox Media stuff, and I'll go do what they call like the health day or a health fair, and we can knock everything out at once. But yeah, we have to do physicals. We do drug tests all year long, all the time, like nonstop. I get, I they drug test me like 4 or 5 weeks in a row this year, but it's not just me. They say it's random, and you'll get like the same driver will be in the room with you for like 5 weeks in a row. I'm like, you're random too, bro? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, this don't feel so random. It's just weird.
that is kind of weird actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
by the fifth one, I'm I might be a jerk. So by the fifth one, we do it in this little tight trailer. You're not supposed to flush, because they want to make sure that you're not like, using fake pee or whatever. You're supposed to come out and then, hand them the thing. Well, I fill it to the brim on the fifth one, and I don't close the lid either. So I just come out, and I'm like fake shaking, and the guy's like trying to take it from my hand. And I'm like, it's gonna spill. And so at that same time, Stuart Friesen comes through the door, like backing himself into the door. I almost spilled that sucker down his back. He didn't even know it either. I mean, it almost got really nasty. So I closed the lid. The guy was kind of like mad at me. And I'm like, I hope you don't have me back next week. He's like, yeah, I can pretty much guarantee it.
Well, that was the smartest thing you've ever done then.
It's perfect.
That
Yeah,
is
we actually had
hilarious.
it was a controversy up here. So I'm in Minnesota, and one of the Vikings got caught. I think it was called the Whizzinator. It was a fake penis that you could fill with somebody else's urine for tests. And who would have
Oh,
thought that would be a thing?
so that's the funny part, right? Is the same people that do the drug testing for us do the drug testing for pretty much every major sport. Every other sport but NASCAR has to watch the specimen be acquired. So these people have to watch, male or female, the pee specimen be taken. And so I got nothing to hide. I tell them every time, I'm like, just take a hair test. I know that shows way further back. I got nothing to hide. You drug test us so much throughout the season. Even if I wanted to go out and get whatever, I couldn't because you pop us on a drug test every month. So I just tell them take a hair test. They haven't done it yet, but NASCAR is the only sport so far that doesn't have to watch everything be taken. So we're pretty lucky there, but they also have to run through all the drivers, all the crew members. It's a mass volume of people. And I would say by and large, I think NASCAR is a lot healthier community as far as drug use goes compared to other stick and ball sports. Nothing
Hmm.
against those guys, but um, I, I'm a fan of the cognitive abilities of NASCAR.
That's a good
Yeah.
way to put it. I like that. And you know
Yeah.
what? That is pretty smart, though, too, about the hair. I mean, that really would
I,
tell everything.
I
That's a lot better
It'd be
history.
so easy. I go in there. You could literally take a piece. I would not care. It's falling out anyways. Take a piece, and I could go on my way. I mean, there's times where we'll have to sit there for a couple hours. Like you only are allowed to drink so much, and if they get you when you're in the heat of the moment. You get out of qualifying. You haven't had a drink of water. You've been in the truck for an hour, and you're supposed to go in there and give them a sample. And like, sorry, dehydrated. What do you want from me?
Hey,
So you have to sit there and wait.
I think I would have performance anxiety if I had to have somebody watching me do that. So I'm glad you
Oh,
guys don't have to do that.
yeah, me too. Me
That would
too.
be awful. So you mentioned even the crew members have to do that. And that just
Mhm.
kind of made me wonder about your crew in general, not if they're all, on the up and up. I'm sure they are. But my question is, are you going to have the same crew next year? Or is that, I mean, is it now it's like, you know what? This is a proven team. Let's not break up the band.
No, that's exactly right. It's a proven team. We're not wanting to break up the band. I'd say the depth of our team is really, really good. So when we went earlier in the conversation, we were talking about like the unspoken things, not the skills, not all the other things that make a driver crew chief pairing so good, but more or less the communication. I would say that that's really the case with our team in a lot of ways. Our truck chiefs play like a really important role. I mean, they're kind of the leader for all the mechanics for the rest of the team. I mean, they have the most one-on-one time with them. So the attitude of that truck chief really dictates the attitude and the culture of the team in a lot of ways. Our truck chief is fantastic. I love the guy. His attitude is the best there is, best of anybody I worked with. I mean, you never hear this guy complain about anything. He gets on the guys only when he has to. And I mean, he's just top notch. So, that has done more for the team, I think, than anything is his leadership. And then him coupled with Rich, who allows him to do whatever he needs. I mean, Rich will go to the track and he'll joke around. He says, "Oh, you want a crew chief?" He'll just tell him, "Oh, you go crew chief. You do what you want," because he's so good. We're all elevating each other. So I would hate to see anything changed or moved. Right now, the plan is for that absolutely not to happen. And the same with the pit crew. I don't want anything to change or move. I hope the guys that were on our pit crew want to stay with us because I told them in Nashville, I said, y'all are really, really, really good. I mean, if you look at their pit stops, they had the most. If I would say if you had like the 20 best pit stops, I don't know how many of those top 20 they would have, but it'd be by and large like it'd be a lot. They would really populate the top 20.
That's awesome. How about your spotter? You got a great relationship with your spotter too?
Yeah. So my spotter and I are on the flip side of that, where positive vibes and don't tear each other down. No, on the racetrack. We're tearing each other down. It's bad. But I
Remind me,
wouldn't
who is your spotter?
Frank Denny Jr., but I wouldn't
Okay.
change it for anything. I've raced with him now for 2 years. We used to race late models together at one time. As I was getting into it, he's at the top of his game and also kind of getting out. So yeah, I really like Frank. I mean, we were just full out screaming at each other at Homestead under a green flag run. But like we can look back at that and laugh because he's a grown man, I'm a grown man. And at the end of the day, we can hit back and we can smile because neither one of us knows it's you, the person, it's the situation. And I think the ability to kind of compartmentalize that means a lot. And he does that. Not everybody has that ability. So I want to keep him for sure.
That's actually a really good skill when you're in the hunt for a championship is to be able to compartmentalize things because you don't want to be carrying a crappy race into the next race either. You just kind of need to be able to put that aside. Is that how you do that whenever something doesn't work out your way? Do you end up compartmentalizing or what's your technique for getting over bad things that
Oh,
happen?
I wasn't very good at it. Moping was my
Mhm.
technique. I just mope around. So, I don't know. I didn't have the good technique for a while. Honestly,
Uh-oh.
wow. Remember
That lo-
how okay,
It
sorry.
looked
it looked like you
it looked
fell.
yeah, it looks like you fell. It's just
So you remember how I said I don't have an official tripod?
Yeah,
yeah.
what are you using for your tripod, Ben?
These are Miller Lite cans. So they're condensating a little bit and they're getting a little slippery. So sorry.
It you can't it's gonna be awesome when you see that because it looked like you just tipped over and fell right off the screen. It's phenomenal.
No, no, no.
I thought,
And
oh
I'm
my
doing
God,
what
he just passed out.
well, it's a great interview. This might be the best ever.
Oh,
It's gonna
I'm
go
enjoying it.
viral.
I'm enjoying it.
Uh,
Oh, shoot, you're
I
funny.
don't know what I was talking about, but yeah.
Well, we were talking about how you deal with stuff. And actually, I was going to ask you what kind of a role does your wife play in that? Because I know for my husband, who's crew chief on a race car, anytime he's had a bad week or a bad race or something went bad, I feel like I end up kind of being his cheerleader. So is your wife that for you?
Yeah. Well, she's my escape, right? Like I can come back home and my wife and kid are my escape. I'm in a different city, different town than all the race team, all the racing equipment. I'm literally in my own bubble when I come here surrounded by family. So that's my escape, and escaping is probably the best thing to do. But I really try hard not to bring any of my work home with me so that I can be in a happy environment with them. But no, I was really, really, really terrible at compartmentalizing and like just trying to let stuff flow and think about big picture. When I would show up to the next race, I would be ready to go. But all the way up to that point, I would be just kind of, especially the night of the race, if something went wrong, I was really bad about leaving the track. Like my wife was like, I don't even know if I want to go to races with you anymore. So, but I can say now I'm so much better. That my phone's slipping again. Condensation, cold beer. Um, I can say I've gotten a lot better here the past like 3 months. Even like in the playoffs here, when it was probably the most stressful playoffs I've ever had between the crew chief swaps and getting in on a tiebreaker on the final race before the championship four. Like there was a lot going on, and we didn't really it really didn't affect me at all. I found that just going to church and just being happy and grateful for what we have, practicing gratitude and just saying, this has been, I got a great team around me, great people. I've really been trying to just practice gratitude really, because at the end of the day, when I set out to race for a living as a little 7-year-old, I didn't really know what that meant. I just wanted to be the next Richard Petty. I wanted to be the king. But my very first race I ever watched was a truck series race at Kentucky Speedway. I was like, I want to do that. That looks cool. And to think that we're here now, like sometimes I have to remind me that yes, it is a success because we're doing what we set out to do. We are racing truck series. We're racing for championships. We're doing this. I find it so easy to get caught up in the performance and the business of the sport. And then everybody's asking, "What's your next plans? What's your next plans? What are you doing this?" Clearly, winning the truck championship's not good enough. So what are you going to do here? And it's like, no, I'm trying to practice gratitude and just be happy for the blessings we have and my great team, my family, Duke and Rhoda Thorson. So very long-winded, but that's kind of where my headspace is, I guess.
I love it. I love that you're rooted in gratitude. I think that that is That right there can fix a lot of things that are wrong. Is when you look, instead of counting what's going wrong, start counting your blessings, and it definitely will flip the script on whatever's happening.
Yeah, and I forget what the book is. I've never read it, but there's a book that talks about your sphere of influence versus like your sphere of control. And when those two meet up and they align, that's when that's what you have to worry about. But whatever's out of your sphere of influence, can't control it. So you focus on the A variables, the stuff you can control, the B variables, the stuff you can't, you got to let it go because it just, it does no good to worry about it. And ultimately it's just going to make you do worse.
For sure. I bet, and I know people have been asking, well, what's next for you? Are you wanting to move up? And that's got to become a really exhausting question because A, you got a growing family, and the truck series is an ideal schedule for having a
Right.
family. And B, the Thorsons are pretty damn awesome to race for, and it probably would be difficult to go look somewhere else. But is that something that you would want down the road, or are you content to just let the cards fall where they do?
Well, I think number one, you hit the nail on the head with those 2 points that Truck Series is conducive to a good family. And we've got, I would say, some of the best, if not the best owners in racing. And I've developed such a great relationship with them. They gave me my first break. I'm so like everything we got going on right now is so good, and we're racing for championships. If we're gonna go into a Cup Series, you don't know who the opportunity would come from, but even if you got the opportunity, we see it every year. This team wins the championship, the next year they're terrible. Rules change. This team wins the championship, the next year they're terrible. It's cyclical. So you could think you're joining the best team there is, and you just went from running for championships with ThorSport Racing, trying to put yourself in the Hall of Fame, to running 20th in the Cup Series. Those guys, when they have a bad day, they're running 20th. They're running close back to 30th. Anywhere from the teens is a good day. Top five is amazing, and wins are very, very hard to come by. So, not that the Truck Series isn't hard. It's extremely hard, but we have all the tools, all the equipment, all the people right now to go win championships. So for me to just say, that's not good enough for me, that's almost like cutting your nose off to spite your face or however that goes, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm ready to go win more championships, and that's the goal that Duke and Rhonda had since '96 or '90. Before I was born, they started in the Truck Series, and that's been their goal since then. And we've aligned that together, and we're trying to do it. So it's cool.
It is cool. When I was out in Phoenix for championship weekend, I heard one of the meetings that they had with all of the championship teams, the representatives. And basically, whoever won the championship had to have something that they were going to donate to the Hall of Fame. What did you donate to the Hall of Fame, Ben?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, this happened last time when we won the championship. Your gloves are automatically donated to the Hall of Fame. So I don't know from the team perspective what that looked like, what else was donated, but I know when you win the championship, the gloves are automatically donated. So they come up on stage, you sign the gloves, and you present them to Winston Kelly, and he takes them. You take pictures together, and yeah, they pretty cool, right? They do that every year, and I've been able to do it twice now. So I don't know. Second time I knew it was coming. The first time I'm like, "You're taking my gloves, man? I need those." Second time
That's
I'm like,
funny.
"Yeah, take them, take them."
That's funny. I was going to ask you if you donated a shoe after you drank champagne out of it, because that would have been a real keeper, I think.
So yeah, funny story about that. The shoes that we have put in the Hall of Fame, they always do like a display of your helmet, your race suit, and your shoes, and they put on like a mannequin or whatever. The shoes that we always have on the mannequin are like my backup pair because the primary champagne shoes goes to the people that drank them. I figure if you put in the work, you deserve the shoe.
Oh my gosh, what did champagne taste like out of your sweaty shoe?
I didn't do it. No,
You
no,
didn't drink
no.
any of it? Who
Oh,
drank? Who drank
I
out of
ain't
your
drinking out of
shoes?
that thing. Do I look that crazy? I'm not that
Well,
crazy. No, no.
who
So
drank it?
my crew chief drank it in 21, and then he drank it again here in 23, and then Allison Thorson drank drank the other shoe. So yeah, we had a twofer going on this time. I mean,
Oh,
I you know what's great about those shoes is they're made of leather. So when you fill them up, it just holds it. It's like an actual cup. I mean, I filled it up to the top of the laces and there's nothing seeping out. So think of all the sweet juices and seasoning. That the champagne was
Seasoning.
with seasoning.
Oh, that's a good word. Seasoning.
Yeah.
Ew.
Start the Rhodes
Seasoning.
winery.
Yeah, we age our wine in shoes, not barrels.
So funny. Ben, you have been just a joy to interview. You are such a funny guy, and I wish you and your whole team all the success next year. I'm looking forward to watching you.
Well, thank you so much. I had a really good time with you guys. It's been a delight. So, wish you guys all the best. And yeah, let me know when this goes live because I would love to post and share it. This has probably been the most fun interview I've had in a while.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.